Thank you, Presiding Officer. As members have said, the constitutional debate has dominated our time in the Chamber for over the last 3 years, and what is important now is that we focus on how we help people and our communities that we represent. Presiding Officer, I welcome much of Nicola Sturgeon's speech yesterday. What was in the legislative programme, I believe action on issues like domestic violence and human trafficking that Jenny Mara has raised are particularly welcome. I also welcome Nicola Sturgeon's plea for constructive suggestions from opposition parties on what we can work on together, and I will happily take her up on that offer. That, however, will not stop us challenging the government to deliver action, and I do believe there are some clear omissions from the programme that my constituents and communities would want to see. For example, on this side of the chamber, as James Kelly and Malcolm Chisholm have said, we would like to have seen measures to address the serious issues in the private rent sector. Action needed because earlier this month the government's private rent sector statistics showed that in parts of Scotland average rents have risen by a staggering 40% in 4 years, well above inflation. I know from speaking to constituents that many people are forced to spend half their monthly pay on private rent, so it will be disappointed to hundreds of thousands of tenants who rent in the private sector that this government hasn't chosen to create a system that works better for those tenants. And as Alison Johnston from the Greens highlighted yesterday, the issue of better bus regulation is something that this government continues to ignore. The government should be supporting my colleague Ian Gray to ensure the public are at the heart of our public transport system, and efforts are made to stop bus passengers paying more and getting less. But it's on the issue of education I want to focus on this afternoon, Presiding Officer. To be fair to the First Minister, she did put a considerable emphasis on education in her speech. No one can doubt the importance of education improving our children's life chances, but equally no one should doubt the huge challenges there are currently in our education system. Like Liz Smith, however, I must dispute the First Minister's assertion made yesterday when she said every main measure showed our education is improving. As Liz Smith said, that is simply not true. There have been marginal improvements in a number of areas, so there should be. I think we would expect that as a minimum, given this government has been in power for 7.5 years. But the reality is, in areas like numeracy, standards are actually falling. Scottish Government statistics published this year show a marked drop in the proportion of children who are performing well or very well in numeracy at primary school, and showed no improvement at S2 level. I would have thought our children's ability to count would be counted as a main measure of educational achievement. But it's not just numeracy that we need to improve on. On literacy, as my colleague Kezia Dugdale raised at First Minister's questions today, statistics from Save the Children show that 1 in 5 children from poor families leave primary school unable to read well, a level 4 times as high as pupils from better-off households. There are, of course, lots of ideas on how we best improve attainment, and we should have a full debate about that. But it's clear that literacy and numeracy and the early years are absolutely key. On the topic of early years, this government still, I don't have time, I'm afraid, this government still lags behind the rest of the UK when it comes to childcare for 2-year-olds. But as Labour has said before, we want a childcare system not only with additional availability, but one that is affordable, flexible and of high quality. Part of the proposal for an education bill includes the promotion of Gaelic. As someone who has family in the Western Isles, I'm a keen supporter of Gaelic and the importance it plays, particularly in those communities. As for the education bill more generally, it will be for local government and teaching unions to assess the workability of proposals affecting the education system at a local level that come forward amid concerns of a workload crisis, particularly amongst teachers. In terms of higher education, Presiding Officer, I absolutely support the aspiration to widen access. There is also a real need for more children from deprived backgrounds to have the opportunity to go to university. We have 3,500 fewer entrants to university from the most deprived areas now compared to 2007. So I welcome the Impact for Access Fund and the ambition expressed to widening access. The First Minister yesterday talked about this in the context of a child born today, or in that case yesterday. I would hope that we don't have to wait 18 years to see serious progress on widening access, and I look forward to seeing the clear milestones that have been promised in relation to that. And I hope the Government will also listen to Labour's call to revisit the decision to cut bursaries for the poorest students. If social justice is meant to be a mainstay of the Scottish Government's agenda, then they will revisit that. They will also revisit and look again at their approach to colleges and further education. Part-time courses, as has been mentioned today, have been slashed by this government, please. And it's vital in getting people back into work and allowing people to gain further qualifications. Of course, we will work with university staff and students, and it's important that their views are taken on board in relation to the Higher Education Governance Bill. I know there's a consultation on that ends in January, and we have to listen to all the stakeholders in regard to that bill.